Hey, what is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is your boy Johnny. In today's video, we are going to be talking about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and we're going to be talking about the multiverse or different timelines or universe, whatever you want to call it, different dimensions in the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth games. One things that I want to mention right off of the bat that this one was actually pulled from Reddit, a chart that somebody made online that basically explains the universes in its entirety. However, I do also have my own take on the universes, but this one also makes pretty good sense in different ways. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is that, man, I understand why people were kind of upset with the ending. Personally, I like the game. I like the ending. I enjoyed everything about it. Even if these timelines are really confusing to the normal average player, I simply did like a lot about the different universes that were included into this game. However, I know that many people didn't like it because it's very confusing, and it is still confusing. I may actually get a couple of things wrong in this video because I am still somewhat confused, but I'll try my best to somewhat explain it and by looking at this chart, and then at the end I am going to give my possible explanation or other universes that may exist. So one thing that I want to mention right off the bat is that Sephiroth and everything when he's showing you in the ending that he's going through different areas in the live stream. I personally think he is talking about that basically he's confirming that there's multiple universes where things happen differently and that he's trying to end it all for every single world is what I personally got from it. So there are multiple universes. This has been confirmed already for this game, and in the original that wasn't the case, I would say. So let's go look ahead and start analyzing this chart or that basically kind of explain it. So basically the people in the live stream that you see is Sephiroth. He's the one that's constantly manipulating Cloud, going through different worlds and manipulating Cloud and doing a bunch of bad stuff. And then we have Ultimate Aerith, who is also going through the live stream, and she's trying to save the world from Sephiroth because he is doing a bunch of bad stuff in different worlds. So she's manipulating different worlds by doing so through Cloud or in different ways as well. All right, so according to this chart, it says the Ultimate Aerith or OG Aerith exists in the live stream fighting Sephiroth through the worlds. So the Ultimate Aerith is the one that's fighting them through the worlds, and she is fighting them through the Zax world. So people are saying this chart says OG Aerith. I personally do not think that may be OG Aerith in my opinion because I don't think they really delved too much into the details of Final Fantasy VII for the PlayStation 1. I don't think they really did so much details about this in the first seventh game. I think they started expanding on the concept later on in the remake or in the rebirth. So I don't think that is actually OG Aerith in any way because in the original game, that is the OG one. She obviously dies, and that's where the story makes different impact on everybody's perspective because that's where she died. You know, that's what made the original great. So I don't think OG Aerith is there. I think Ultimate Aerith is a new Aerith that is trying to stop Sephiroth from different worlds. So that's just me, in my opinion. I don't think it's OG Aerith. It's just a different Aerith. I would even say that the Final Fantasy VII original one is its own timeline where none of this actually happens at all. Where any of this actually happens through different universes where Sephiroth is going through. I would personally even argue that the Final Fantasy Crisis Core is its own universe as well, because if you know that Zack did exist in Final Fantasy VII PS1, but I also think that the other characters like Genesis and Angel did not actually appear in the original Final Fantasy VII games. So I would also say that Crisis Core may actually be its own universe as well. But it's a little bit more tied up to the original in some ways. But Angel and Genesis, I don't think is even taken into consideration anymore with the newer games. And same could be said about Angel and Genesis in Final Fantasy 7, unless they bring them back to the newer remakes. But we don't know about that. I don't think it's gonna happen though. So I think they're gonna stick with removing that universe completely from this universe of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and remake. So I think that's another separate universe if you want to make it out as well, where Zack dies and he has his game and Geo and Genesis exist. And then all the events of Final Fantasy VII happen in that game. But other than that, I don't think Crisis the Core is even connected to any of these universes. All right, so now let's get into the Zack's worlds that we saw in the game. And honestly, if you weren't really paying attention, or if you're 100% like to pay attention with the lore, if you're a casual player like me, I don't even think I would have noticed this at all. So let's go into Zack's worlds. Basically, this is where Zack lives in different worlds. The Tierra universe. As you guys can see, Cloud and Aerith are asleep. And they have the white materia. Apparently, the potato chips indicated that they are in a universe that is different, the Tierra universe. And then there's the Pug universe, which has the chip bag again with a different dog, which is a pug, which is another universe. And then you see the Shiba in another universe, which is another dog, indicating that there is another universe in Zack's world. So this was during the cutscenes when Zack appears, I believe, and those were one of the universes that were separate. So there's like three of them there, and I think there's also a fourth universe. So the Spitz universe, Ultimate Aerith, and Cloud One move into their bodies in this universe. I think this is the one where they actually go where you're walking around with Aerith and stuff. So they move their bodies to that one where they wake up and they're in that universe, which that's why we don't really see Zack anywhere, or it's really confusing. So I would say that's another universe. It's a fourth universe, and Zack may actually be alive in this universe as well. But we don't really see him in there. Um, and then they have Aerith gives her holy materia to Cloud. I believe that was in the Spitz universe. I don't know. I'm very confused on there. So before I head on to the next part, it says Aerith 2 and Aerith 2 Cloud are unconscious bodies. So every Aerith and Cloud that's in these universe are in unconscious bodies. Basically, they're not conscious as you see them sleeping throughout the whole Zack's cutscenes that you get, or Zack's playthrough through the game, which are different Aeriths and Clouds. So basically, in the Spitz universe, like I said, they went back into the body where he talks with Aerith. I think Aerith wanted to have a alone time with him as well. Special moment in the game. But also has a meaning. So in that universe, in the Spitz, Aerith gives her holy materia to Cloud. And this is where it gets a little bit confusing again, which we're going to get to, is Aerith sends Cloud back to the Beagle universe. And the Beagle universe, of course, is the main world where Cloud is at. And as you guys may know, this is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth game. So Cloud is sent back to the main world in the universe, and he takes back the materia that she gives him, the holy materia. And then Cloud gives Aerith one white materia, gives it an empty one in return. So basically, from that universe, Aerith gave him that materia, then he gave it to her in the Beagle universe, and she got the empty one in return. I don't, I don't understand. So Aerith 1 and Aerith and Cloud 1 from Beagle universe are in this area. So he gives Aerith 1 the materia. See, I'm getting confused already. So how about the Beagle universe? As you guys can see, I think this is where it kind of splits. It's kind of hard to explain, but I think in one of the Beagle universe, Aerith does die, in my opinion. That's what I got an understanding if you saw it. Because if you're looking through the cutscenes, you can see that she's bleeding. So in one of them, she did get stabbed. And then in another one, she didn't get stabbed, which is kind of weird. Doesn't really tell you the notion that she got killed or anything. And you can see as Cloud is acting pretty weird. But I think the Beagle universe might be a little weird. I think Aerith 1 from the Beagle universe may actually have died, but Cloud for some reason doesn't see it. But all of his friends are mourning it, or either they split it into two different timelines. It could be either one, but that's just my personal opinion. But according to this chart, what they believe is that is Beagle universe. It's been split into two. I think it's been split into two because she literally gets murked in one of them, and then the other one, she is still alive. But however, she is sent back to the live stream where Cloud can still see her. I don't understand why. This is where it gets super confusing. So I would assume that she got sent back into the live stream or something to stop Sephiroth, which she might be the ultimate Aerith. That's what I would assume for in one of the universes, or it could be just Aerith one from the Beagle universe that got sent in a different timeline to fight Sephiroth, which will be continuing in the third part of the game. So I don't understand why they say ultimate Aerith here. So I would think that from the main world or Rebirth world, one of the Aeriths survived and she got sent into the ultimate Aerith as well. So that means she's the one that's going to be fighting Sephiroth, and she says she's going to stop a meteor from attacking, so the world doesn't end, which is Sephiroth's plans, I think, in the game. So as you guys can see, only Cloud could see her in one of the worlds. To be honest, nobody else saw her. Everybody else thinks she's dead, I believe. Yeah, I think everybody else thinks she's dead because they kind of make it a notation that she's dead, and they only see the part in the blood as well where she got stabbed. So Beagle universe, I think the original era from this universe is actually dead, and somehow there's another one that's still alive in the live stream, which might be Ultimate Earth. So yeah, it's pretty confusing stuff. I'm still a little bit confused by it. I'm not gonna lie, it's still very confusing. The timeline is very confusing. Personally, in my opinion, through the I think the Beagle universe has two timelines. One where Aerith really does die, and Cloud is mourning, and we just haven't really seen much of it where she really is dead. And then we have the one where Cloud doesn't really feel anything because he still sees her in his visions, which he still can see him. Kind of like how Sephiroth was appearing to Cloud, but now it's Aerith that's going to be appearing instead of Sephiroth. Or it could be both of them appearing to Cloud at the same time. So yeah, it's very confusing. And the thing that makes it more confusing is that even if there was a split universe in the Beagle timeline where there's two universes, I think in both of them don't really see Aerith, and there's a lot of people that are saying that Aerith died in both of them, and only Cloud is seeing them in one universe, which may be another reason. And it's not really well explained of why she exactly is there, but I would assume that she went to the live stream and became Ultimate Aerith, in my opinion, from the Beagle universe, or the Ultimate Aerith from the other universes, and then came back. So people are saying this is a different Aerith as well, and then the Beagle one is basically passed away, and she really is dead in these universes. That's another theory as well, that she's basically dead in both of the universes of the Beagle or. But they make it so confusing. That's the thing. You can't really confirm anything at this point. I would say it's different. It's different theories for sure. There may have been two different split universes in the Beagle universes, where one she lives and one she dies. But the ultimate consensus to this chart is that there's only one ultimate Aerith, and she's the one that did all this stuff. On the left with the orange stuff, and then that's how she survives, and she's fighting Sephiroth through these different worlds. So yeah, it's really, 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 really confusing. I mean, I still liked it. I enjoyed it, but I honestly wish they wouldn't have done all of this, because now in the third game they have to focus on all of these other universes. And honestly, to the casual player, a lot of people who are new to Final Fantasy VII or played Remake and enjoyed the hell out of it are just going to be really confused by all these other worlds on the left. And then on top of that, the right one is already confusing in its own. However, some people may debate there's just one Aerith that's still alive, which is the one that got saved. Um, but as you guys can see, that in the Beagle universe, it just gets really confusing for the majority or average person as well, because Cloud stops Sephiroth's sword from stabbing her in one of them, so technically she's alive in that part of one of those worlds. And then the other one, you can see the blood. Now, there is one more interesting theory that is going out there that a lot of people are trying to say might be true, but I personally don't believe it, that it will be the true story about it. Or it might be. It might be. It might be real. At this point, it's just theories, but this theory says that basically Aerith did die, and that Cloud is just having a hard time with mourning the death of Aerith in different timelines in the Beagle universe, that he's just having a hard time, so he's still having these hallucinations that are caused by Sephiroth or something like that. Um, and then there is no Aerith, that she really died and she's not coming back or anything like that. Which kind of makes sense, which was in the original, but honestly, with everything that has been changed in the story, I mean, Sephiroth says that there's like different worlds experiencing everything, so honestly, I don't think that is the case anymore with the Rebirth. I mean, this is definitely like a remake, retelling in a different way, which I think there are multiple universes, and it's kind of pretty much confirmed throughout the game that there's multiple universes. I don't think it's Cloud just having different illusions, in my opinion, but yeah, if you, I don't know, I may have explained this chart pretty decent in some way, but I'm still confused a little bit more about the Beagle universe, but it's still kind of confusing to me. I mean, that's just, we need part 3 to know and 100% fully understand this. I hope that they do a better job in part 3 to understand everything. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed the game. It was still pretty badass. This game is really dope. If you haven't played it, I don't think people should really knock it for this. It's just really confusing to the average player, and it was pretty confusing to me. It still is. I mean, like, even as I mentioned before, I don't think they're even mentioning every single universe here. Every universe is not mentioned in this game. I mean, you still have your Crisis Core universe, which I believe is 100% completely different. And the OG Final Fantasy 7 and the PlayStation 1 is definitely completely different as well. I don't think they're really connected at all either, in my opinion. But many people are going to say they are connected, but I personally don't think they are. Or they're somewhere in their own universe where the events are occurring differently in those universes. Now, I believe that Final Fantasy 7 Advent Children, I really haven't seen Final Fantasy 7 Advent Children in a while. But I believe they kind of did mention something about the live stream and universes as well. So I would think that it will be pretty interesting to see what happens in part 3 of the Final Fantasy 7 remakes. If they're going to integrate the Final Fantasy Advent Children story or movie into the games, I think it would be a great idea if they do it with a part 3 or maybe even a part 4, because I mean, I think it was canon back in the day, even though they didn't plan it to be canon. But since Final Fantasy has been super popular, they made Advent Children because it was really popular and it's canon. So we might see that in the future. I think with the Final Fantasy VII remake, I think it would be a big mistake if they don't, because it's definitely paying a lot of fan service to people who really played it. I can also really understand the perspective of the people who didn't really like this. I hope that Square Enix in the future just go ahead and make an official timeline so people do not get confused. Add it into the game so people can get an understanding of the timeline. I know that they did it on purpose. I know that the average player, there's a lot of people who started playing Final Fantasy recently, and they are really not 100% into the lore. And if they didn't pay attention to these dogs, Terrier, Pug, or Shiba, they wouldn't have even known that was a different timelines, um, or separate universes that Zack was in. So I feel like they really should do something similar to what Nintendo did to Zelda, where they gave out an official timeline of every Zelda game to a certain point. So I think they should do that with this as well for the timelines. That way people do not get confused in the future. I think they should at this point, because it's really confusing, and this is where a lot of people were really angry about the ending and they didn't really like it, and they said that it's messed up, it's just too much convoluted shit, and for the average player it might be convoluted for the most part. I mean, to this point I'm still getting a little bit confused, and maybe stuff that I even said in this video may not be entirely correct, but it is what it is. It's just very confusing. So hopefully we get something official from Square Enix or the developers. That way people don't scramble to what world this is. But I think we'll probably be seeing that until part 3, because I think part 3 is definitely going to explain it a little better. Hopefully, that's the goal. Hopefully they explain the universes better, because at this point the universes are a little bit confusing. So they got explaining to do for part 3. Even if it has to spoil it, it's supposed to be the final game. So go ahead and do it in part 3 at least, for the most part. I think other people really had issues with the game as well because I mean it really wasn't emotional with Aerith's death. Not even Kate Sith's death was emotional in this game, so it's not the same as the original ones. I even think Crisis of Core was even more sadder than this game. This has been the least saddest Final Fantasy VII game, and if you guys played Final Fantasy, the original one, and even Crisis of Core, that game, if you played it for the first time ever back in the day, it probably made you shed a bit of a tears. So I felt like this one didn't really make me shed any tears at any point. So definitely I can see why the people prefer the original one. They just felt it had more emotion, even though it was just a 2D characters. That you can't really even see their face expressions or anything. Crisis, of course, you kind of could see their face expressions, but with the 2D version of the original one, I think the dialogue may have just been a little bit better, or the story was just better. That's why some people just wanted a one-to-one remake. They didn't want something to be steered off the path. But I understand they gotta make the game unique, even if they added a bunch of filler into it. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Like I said, if I messed up on certain parts, correct me if I'm wrong. But this whole thing has been really confusing.